I'm going to invite you to, if you're sitting in a place that you feel like the sun is in your eyes, feel free to move over to one other place. Or if you feel like you need to adjust or stretch for a moment, feel free. We're outside. This is really cool. We can do that, right? So, that's one of the good things about the way, you've been used to going to get your extra cup of coffee or going to take the dog out during the service. I'm really aware of that. And some of you are doing that at home right now. And I see you. As someone who lived alone for much of the pandemic months, I prized most my routines which connected me with other forms of life, whether it was the pre-dawn gardening, or the morning or evening phone calls, the yoga in live time, which was not that live, but, real time. There were so many ways that we did connect. But each Saturday night, one of the things I really looked forward to was that I would take just a few moments and I would tune in on Facebook to the Chabot Center's live telescope watching every night, every Saturday, just for a few minutes, because usually I had to work on a sermon, but it was a great break. And then on Sunday, unless I was too tired, which I think only happened 2 times the entire time, I would walk or drive to a place where I could see the beacon light on the top of Mount Diablo. It was a brilliant little anchor in my week. And it said to me, we can do things in new ways and we will get through. And I find myself sad that I was sick Sunday and I missed what I learned yesterday was the last of the lighting of the beacons for the pandemic. I will miss that. And while I've always disliked that beacon before, and I've always loved looking at the stars, anytime I do one of those 2 things now, it'll be forever different for me after this year. I know we all have those things. Bishop Yvette Flunder said last week, the places and spaces have remained the same, but I have changed. We have all been partakers in a kind of magic stone soup where we took what we could, even if it didn't have the basic ingredients we thought were necessary, and we made what we could out of them, right? We've all been doing that. Our caring has been a constant in this community, though its forms have changed. In a world in which we now know that toilet paper is a finite resource, we appreciate the generosity of this community. I will not forget that on the same day that I saw a man navigating Lucky's with a cart overflowing with the 12 packs of toilet paper and getting into a tussle, a literal tussle over one with a woman who wanted just one, I came from there to the office to find that somebody had carefully divided their 12-pack and left 6 rolls here in case somebody needed one. That terrible feeling that some of us had of knowing someone who was ill or had just died and that we couldn't be with them and couldn't visit them in the ways we would was juxtaposed with all the ways that we tried so hard to let people in those situations know that we were thinking of them. All of this is a part of us now. The echoing quiet of the nights without the sounds of planes, trains, and automobiles, about how our beds could be our office and how our kids and our pets could be our colleagues. And also the soul searching that we did about how much we missed things and what we really missed, and about how small it felt for us, some of us, to be denied of the choices we were so used to being able to have. As things are opening up and people are returning to some of the things they used to do, though in different ways still, many of us are caught in this odd place that's somewhere between gratitude and fear. And we're still there. This Sunday, though, is Commitment Sunday. And I cannot imagine an easier topic to talk about in this community. Commitment, grounded in care. Often when asked to consider what they consider to be the divine, people in our community will say community. Our commitment to one another is that higher power for them. For we have seen that we can band together when we truly need to. We have seen that we can find together the full range of human experience, even under conditions we couldn't have imagined we would experience. We've laughed and cried. We've put out an odd succession of things in brown paper bags and had them delivered to our doorsteps. We've done our best to find new ways to beam love across distance to those who have suffered loss, and we have sacrificed to serve those most affected. And as a community, what I think I appreciate the most is the extent to which we have deepened our spiritual offerings together this year. We have missed with all our hearts those who cannot engage with us virtually, which is why it's so important that we begin to figure out how to do these hybrid services and bring people together who haven't been able to gather with us in any form for more than a year. Frederick Buechner says, "A miracle is what happens when something is greater than the sum of its parts." And that has been what I have borne witness to in this community all this year. I want us each, before we leave this campus, to take a look at the beads on the trees in the Memorial Grove to remind us that there has been so much grieving and loss. Many of us have lost people to COVID. We have also lost people to other medical conditions because of what has happened necessarily with our healthcare system. We are still discovering how many physically moved away from our community because of economic or environmental realities, and so much is irretrievably lost in this. And some of you are still joining us virtually, so I want to say a special thanks and hello to you. And yet, those of us who are remaining feel that this community is more precious, for we too now take up all those legacies. No matter what names we have for the divine, community is now among them for more of us, and not just a social group. We come from a covenantal people, people who made commitments to one another. And the covenants we shared together, the ways we did from the earliest days on these shores and our traditions, we are part of a belief from those who came across the sea, that came from England to settle on these shores, braving dangers to be able to practice their free religion. These ancestors brought many things, both Unitarian and Universalist, including colonizing sentiments, it's true, and also a deep yearning for a different kind of community, one entered into freely that can bestow its own authority on its own leaders, and most importantly, live together in a deep love grounded in respect and accountable to a vision of a better human life on this planet. Not made possible by some all-knowing God, but by our very human actions. We are still trying to figure out how to live together, how to navigate this time, how to keep our democracy going in so many different challenges. And what we know is that we emerge into a world very much divided, and we need a place to hold both our own shattered pieces and imagine together a new kind of unity that is not just the false peace of oppression of some. In this year to come, we will also be each other's companions as we make the choices about how to do that. And it could be a part of an ongoing back and forth, but whatever it is, as so many are hunkering down, I don't think it's going to be that plow into people for that last roll of toilet paper kind of expression, as long as we can support one another. You know, Renwa Hamami has already had us experience a flower communion with the UR instead of the WE. But you know what? We might need a hand sanitizer communion as well, who knows, to remind us. We want to be the people who cared the most and who continued to exercise the spirit of generosity, even as our spirits are weary of all this change and uncertainty. We have been in this pandemic so long that our last nerves are frayed, but because we have been in the pandemic so long, in part in this nation, because of the contagion of the dangerous belief that our individual wants preempt the needs of the community. And I could have used a different verb, but I chose not to. On the balance, Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church has been a beacon of generosity. That the vast majority of people here, when asked to help, even if they wish to do something else, step forward over this year. Talents, sharing witness, sharing a willingness to grow and learn. Within this pandemic, we have seen an epidemic, actually, of generosity, and that is a great blessing. Author Shelley Rambo says, "I feel the fragility of the world more acutely than I did 10 years ago. I view people as more vulnerable in it, and the earth more wounded by our heavy footprints. And I have come to believe that we are connected in ways that we cannot account for, and constituted by much we do not know." This is what I know. That when I next see that beacon on December 7th, which as a Japanese-American person is not my favorite day of the year, any year, I'm going to see it in a different way. And when I will see it, I will remember those Sundays when I was really tired, but I walked to the end of my street, or I got in my car and I drove down to the curve so I could really see it. And I will have that glowing, pulsing eminence of this community with me at that moment always. At a time when many, over this last year, decided their religion was irrelevant, we decided to commit more deeply. The promise of religion, I think, is that something binds us together, and we can be part of the sinews of that. I want to share with you some words from my colleague, the Reverend Rodney Lemery. He gave them to me yesterday, and I think they share better than any others what I'm trying to say today. As many of you know, these past many days have been the most difficult I've ever experienced in my entire life. On March 8th, my husband of 20 years, our beloved Errol Reyes, suffered a rare genetic brain aneurysm that sent him into a coma. Many difficulties were experienced during these last 39 days, and every imaginable emotion has been felt, processed, and reprocessed by myself and his family. I can tell you that never in all my years of churching have I experienced the level of compassion and care that I have over these days. This is Errol's home, this UU congregation, and one of my trusted places to serve in ministry. We both knew how amazing this community is, but we never imagined what that love felt like when it was aimed directly at our own hearts and lives. If I could use the language of our religious ancestors, I would describe it as the grace of God, the mystery beyond all knowing. So many of you sent us good wishes, meals, and other critical gifts. So many of you came together in collective prayer and intentional rituals that I firmly believe touched the metaphysical fabric of the universe and returned love to the brain, heart, and mind of our beloved Errol. He is now comfortably beginning the long road of recovery at a rehabilitation hospital here in the Bay Area. I don't think this outcome would have been possible without the collective consciousness of this caring community surrounding him and our family with such immense love. I am a scientist by training, an epidemiologist. I know the math of traumatic brain injury. I know the probability of positive outcomes. They are bleak at best. What has happened in our community passes all understanding, and no one can do that math. I pray that we will all learn a lesson from this example. When we actively silence ourselves and focus love on another person, miracles can happen. And you can clap for that. I can say that we have grown in caring and loving in our circle of concern. And I want to thank each and every one of you, whether you're here on campus today or whether you're joining us remotely, for your ongoing commitments to this place. We have seen better days together because of this faith, and we will continue to serve ourselves, our communities, and our nation through the work that we do, because all of them need communities like ours to stay strong and vibrant, to provide sanctuary in these times. So let us continue to come together in commitment and caring, and let's continue to draw the circle wider.